Heavy rains are continuing in South Florida. We've got severe weather risks Friday for the Northeast and Northern Mid Atlantic, a lovely Father's Day weekend, and a heat wave for next week. And I'm starting to think that maybe, just maybe, we may see some areas go to the century mark for the first time since I think, what was it, 2012, Joe Rayo?
2012 at Central Park.
Correct. Um, well, we'll cover this all
Let
coming up.
me let me point out at Central Park 2012 for 100 plus at Central Park, but I believe in 2017, LaGuardia on this day, in fact, LaGuardia Airport hit 101, and for a time while all the construction was going on at LaGuardia, that may have loaned itself to making LaGuardia the new Newark airport. I don't think it's that way anymore, but for a while, LaGuardia was the hot spot in the tri-state area, where if you wanted a temperature, approaching or hitting 100, LaGuardia was in there with Newark. But again, that was back, what, 7 years ago.
We'll talk about that and so much more tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system that's easy to install and runs off your mobile device. Get it and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the description of this podcast. And if you use the coupon code SPRING 2024, which is almost over, you will get
10% off. Yes.
yes, indeed. So, um, I was looking at some of the guidance there for today for next week, and I'm going to show the European upper air a little later on. It's not often that you see a closed 600 decameter upper high sitting over the Northeast. But that seems to be where we're going for the middle part of next week, and it looks like the 90s will start on Monday.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking that we could see 90 here beginning Tuesday and then running through the rest of the week. I was thinking more like upper 80s to near 90. We could hit 90 on Monday. Look,
90-ish. Let's go 90-ish. And
ish.
then it goes up from there, and it does look like I don't see anything that suggests any kind of backdoor front coming down. So it looks like it's going to be a week-long affair, and maybe even into next weekend.
It could very well be. We are looking at something we haven't seen very much of in recent years, which is a protracted spell of hot weather. I mean, we've had our share of heat in recent years, but 2 days, maybe 3 days, then it's gone, or it gets pushed out by some kind of a weather front. This looks like it could very well be one that's going to last more than just 3 days, which would be an official heat wave. This looks like it could last, as you said, Joe, maybe right on into next weekend.
Yes, I'm thinking that. So we've got a busy night tonight, and I'm trying to get this one wide. Let me see if I can get this over here. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay, good. But there we go. So I wanted to just show everybody because on the Miami Weather Service homepage there, they've got a big shot of the radar, and the heavy rains continue, but they have shifted a little bit further to the south. It's been raining hard all day in South Florida, and one batch is moving out. We've got two working flash flood warnings up for Miami-Dade County and for Broward County. And then there's a kind of a gap, and then you see another load of rainfall that is coming in to Southwest Florida, and we'll see how that holds together. But they still got more rainfall to go here in South Florida. And I was looking at some of these rainfall amounts. So these are 48-hour rainfall amounts here that I have. So this goes back to 4 a.m. Tuesday. Hallandale, Florida, Joe, 19.39 inches. Hollywood, Florida, 19.10. Fort Lauderdale, uh, Hollywood, I guess that's the airport, 12.84. The downtown, 12.64. Pompano Beach, 12.11. So those are some of the bigger numbers there. In Collier County, Big Cypress near the Everglades, 25.13 inches of rain,
That's ridiculous.
2 feet. Oasis at 1775. Honeymoon Raw is 15.7. I had some moron from Southwest Florida on my news break post say that basically said that this is no big deal. Okay, that in all his years he's seen far heavier rain than this because after all, Joe, the world revolves completely around that one person centered in that one zip code. Nobody else exists. Uh, and meanwhile, another woman from Miami messaged me saying that you could, so much water you could practically just take the boat out and go fishing in the uh, in her
Where
driveway.
now?
And
Where did you say that the 25 inches fell?
this was in Collier County. Uh,
Col-
so I'm guessing this is just, I mean, I didn't look on the, this is probably in along the Florida West Coast, but down near the Everglades, 25.13. Um, Oasis at 17.75. Naples, Florida, 7.92. Actually, they got three measurements from Naples: 7.92, 7.71, 7.47. I guess it depends on what your tax bracket is. Um, Oneida Springs, 6.14. North Miami and Miami-Dade County, North Miami, 20.43 inches in 48 hours. That is just, I mean, I can't even grasp that.
Now,
Uh,
just to give you an idea, up here in New York at Central Park in 1965, we were in the throes of probably the worst drought that the New York City metropolitan area ever went through. In fact, it was so bad that there were tremendous restrictions on water use during that summer. But for the entire year of 1965 at Central Park, the total amount of precipitation, the total amount of rainfall or melted snow that fell, 26 inches for the whole year in New York City in 1965. And here, Joe just mentioned parts of
a
some,
year's worth of New York rain
yeah,
in a
yeah.
bad year, in a bad New York year for rain, in a drought New York year for rain. Yeah, a year's worth of rain in 48 hours.
We've of course we've gone through recent years where New York has seen 50 and 55 inches of rain or whatever, which has been going overboard in terms of the amount of rainfall. Normal amount, I believe, is something like 40 or 42 inches. But in one year, in 1965, Central Park had all of 26 inches. And here, Joe just mentioned within the span of just the last couple of days, spots in South Florida picking up all that much rain in just a couple of days' time. That's unbelievable.
And by the way, this does not count what fell today. So we don't have today's numbers in this. This was from 4:05 a.m. from the Weather Service. I guess they're only putting rainfall totals out once a day.
And
Um,
and by the way, I mentioned yesterday, I mentioned last couple of days that, and I'll show it a bit later in the show from Climate Prediction Center, the drought map. Now, the drought map is updated and displayed on Thursdays. And today, of course, is a Thursday, so we have a new drought map. But the data that is used to compile the map is it comes in through the preceding Tuesday. And obviously, all of this rain has been falling since late Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So all of these big rains have not been inputted into the drought map, which again has just come out today. So people who are looking at that drought map today are probably scratching their heads and saying, what's going on? We're still in
right.
a drought. We're still in a severe or moderate drought here in South Florida. Yeah, that was expected because, again, this all is based upon data that came before the big rains arrived. Next Thursday, much of what you're going to see on that map, when I show you a little bit later on, will be eradicated. Will be pretty much gone. But according to the map that was updated today, South Florida is still in a drought. Ha ha.
All right. David Schwartz, you're asking about Boca Raton, 4.36 inches in Boca Raton, West Palm Beach, 4.9. So the amounts really tail off as you go, the further north you go. So this was mostly, I guess, draw a line from Fort Myers to maybe about, I don't know about Jupiter, maybe that's too far north, but somewhere between there and say West Palm Beach or Palm Beach, you're looking at amounts that were far less. And of course, in northern Florida, where they're really the drought situation in northern Florida is not quite as bad. Um, Hardly any rain there at all. But I mean, this has been. Again, this does not, these numbers that I just gave you, these are the numbers that are up from the Weather Service. If you go to the Miami weather.gov slash, um, hold on, uh, hold on a second. Well, if you go on weather.gov and just click the map down near South Florida, you'll get the Miami website, and it's on right on the homepage. There's a link uh, to um, to all of this. If you'd like, let's do some radars and see what's going on.
All right. Well, let's start off. I'm going to start off this round of radar, Joe. First of all, let me get up to the share screen section, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen. Let's first stop off at a place that's up to the north of St. Louis. Actually, this I think would be St. Louis. Yeah, it is St. Louis because we do have some very heavy activity that's going on just north of St. Louis. You can see these clusters of heavy-duty showers and storms, which is moving across northeastern sections of Missouri into central sections of Illinois, and also clipping southeasternmost sections of Iowa. Let me see if I can get a little bit better, zoom in a little bit more on those big storms. If I go up to Quad City and Davenport, and you could see here again some major activity going on. These are no organized squall line. These are just clusters of locally heavy or severe showers and storms going on in and around the northeastern section of Missouri and north central sections of Illinois, or actually west central sections of Illinois and southeastern sections of Iowa. Now, nothing is going on in the Chicago area per se. However, if we take a look over in, let's go to North Webster, Indiana, there is kind of a squall line that is moving on through northern sections of Indiana and on into northwestern sections of Ohio. And this is the cold front. This is the cold front that is approaching our area and will be placing us in line for some possible severe weather later tomorrow here in the New York City tri-state area. If we go a little bit further to the east over toward Buffalo, let's see if we could pick up on any of these cells as they're entering Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Here they come. They're moving across Ontario province off to the north and west of Toronto. So not quite there yet. But again, all of this that you see here is associated with the front that will be working its way into and through our area during the afternoon hours tomorrow. I'm targeting, Joe, for the immediate New York City area and the Hudson Valley, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. as the time frame for possible severe weather. In the lower Hudson Valley, I think it'll pretty well be over where I am by about 8 o'clock tomorrow night. However, the fact that we are expecting severe weather, I don't know if you mentioned it at the start of the show. We normally are off on Fridays, but before the show started tonight, we have decided that we are going to be on tomorrow night to talk about this severe weather, just in case the lines of showers and storms lag a little bit and are still in our vicinity at showtime tomorrow night. So we'll be on to talk about all of that tomorrow night.
Go to
And
Go to Kansas because the radar's busy there too, in central Kansas.
all right, let's see. How about if I go to this is Topeka, and it's not really showing all that much. Well, there's some stuff that's blowing up now just to the west and southwest of Topeka, some rather heavy cells of precipitation. Let me move a little bit further to the west. Let's go down to, I'll go to Wichita. And in Wichita, again, you see the clusters of heavy duty showers and storms, which are developing and popping up in the heat of the late afternoon. And if we go a little bit further west of Wichita, we will go to um, Dodge City. And in Dodge, where Matt Dillon happens to be, you could see that we've got ourselves some, again, locally heavy showers and thunderstorms and possible, I guess, tornadic activity associated with these cells of precipitation that are now, again, moving through the western and west central sections of Kansas. Joe?
All right. So I'll show a few other places here. Let me get the screen and switch it off, and we'll take a look at off the radar, the wide radar view. And you'll notice there's a big cluster that Joe showed you up in northeast Missouri and west central Illinois, southeastern Iowa. Numerous severe thunderstorm warnings there. I haven't seen any recent tornado warnings on Tornado HQ. And then, of course, you've got the Kansas storms, which are also producing numerous severe thunderstorms there. And we also have some showers, some thunderstorms in northern Indiana, northwestern Ohio, southernmost Michigan, moving slowly to the southeast. There are also some showers going on in Arizona and in parts of New Mexico and Colorado. There's a stray severe thunderstorm cell in eastern Colorado,
We're
and
not
some.
not seeing any of those though, Joe. What if
Oh,
you're
I
showing
thought
me those?
I thought I did. I thought I switched the screen. At least it's up there.
I didn't see. I well, maybe I'm running way behind.
You must
I
be
must,
running way behind.
I must be running way behind.
Yeah,
So,
it's there. Refresh.
all right.
Um, so you got the showers in Arizona, and also a few in the Sierra Nevadas and parts of central Nevada and southern Wyoming. And also don't want to leave out our friends in southeastern Canada. Looks like some big storms crossing in maybe not too far from Toronto. There's a pretty solid line, I think, just to the north of Toronto of some very heavy thunderstorms that are moving to the east, and even further north than that, into Ontario and Quebec province. We've got some hefty storms. So very busy here with showers and thunderstorms tonight, and of course that heavy rain that goes on. You can see the extension of what's in Southwest Florida goes all the way down into the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. No tropical development here, as we're probably going to see a non-tropical low start to develop off the Florida East Coast and then move on out toward the Northeast, getting pushed out by the next cold front that's going to be headed here. Severe thunderstorm watches from southernmost Michigan to northern Indiana, north central Illinois, southeastern Iowa, northwest Mizzou, back through much of Kansas, northwestern Oklahoma, and northwest Texas. Heat advisories and excessive heat warnings and watches from West Texas down, southwest Texas down through southern New Mexico and southern Arizona into parts of southern California, southern Utah, and also in northwest Utah, some heat advisories there, and for a few counties in southeastern Colorado, flood watches. And of course, we have flash flood warnings in southeast Florida, in Miami, Dade, and Broward counties. That seems to be the hot spot here with this particular system. Otherwise, everywhere else, not really a whole lot. There's a slew of gray, and that is an air quality alert for southeastern Pennsylvania, uh, and then running across New Jersey on a diagonal, probably right along on either side of the Route 1 corridor, up into northeast New Jersey, into the lower Hudson Valley and western Long Island. And here's what it looks like on the satellite loop. I'll give it a quick refresh here so I can update the frames a bit. And you'll notice the convection that's in Florida is, in some ways, it's just basically a line, clusters, little clusters that are going by. There's no, you've got a low that's trying to form offshore, but there's no concentrated area of showers or storms with this. So it'll just sort of move along. And then you've got the other storms that we see. Either side of those storms, by the way, it's nice and clear, or actually, it's still sunny up in the northern plains and back up into the northern Rockies, since it's only what is it, 5:55 there. And we had a really lovely sunny day across much of the southeast and the Gulf states and back through Texas and the Ohio and Tennessee Valley. A beautiful day here today in North Georgia. Temperatures, I think I got to 82 for a high after a low this morning of 59. So I kind of like that. All right, the Storm Prediction Center tonight, we're looking at enhanced risk, northern Missouri, southeast Iowa, north central Illinois, and that's pretty much played that way. West central Illinois, I should say. The slight risk from eastern Colorado northeastward to southern Michigan. We also have a marginal risk in South Florida for there are a lot of special marine warnings up around the Keys as of 7:55 p.m. Eastern time, and there have been occasions where we've seen severe thunderstorm warnings pop up in Southeast Florida the last couple of days, and even the odd tornado warning here and there. Now, tomorrow, Friday, it's the Northeast and Northern and Mid Atlantic states turn and into the Central Appalachians. SVC hasn't really changed its forecast too much from yesterday, and they've gone through a few forecast slight cycles. So this was last updated at 2024. So this was updated at 4:24 p.m. Eastern time, and they still have that slight risk. Actually, they may have extended that a little further south into central Maryland and just touching northernmost Virginia, going northeast, northern New Jersey, uh, much of southeastern Pennsylvania, basically north and west of Philadelphia. We'll draw a line from Baltimore to Philadelphia. North and west of that line is where the border of the slight risk lies. And then that extends up into southern New Hampshire. Marginal risk surrounding all of that, going as far south as western Virginia, eastern Kentucky, and into West Virginia. We also have a slight risk in eastern Colorado, western and southwestern, western and southern Nebraska, western Kansas for tomorrow. That comes with a small area of 2% tornado risk there. Day three, for now, looks kind of quiet. Two small areas of marginal risk. Western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, southeast South Dakota, southwest Minnesota, also in western North Dakota with a marginal risk. General thunderstorms, southernmost Georgia and Florida, and along the immediate Gulf Coast, but nothing from Maine down to southern Georgia and west across the rest of the Gulf states into much of Texas, and then northeastward through the middle Mississippi and Ohio Valley. And on the long range, they do have indicated an implied slight risk possible on day 5, and this is Monday into Tuesday for easternmost North and South Dakota and western Minnesota. Now, rainfall. Let's get this done. So, on top of everything that's fallen, WPC, starting at 8 o'clock tonight, is forecasting another inch and a half to pockets of up to 3 additional inches of rain in South Florida. Also, note, by the way, they got a lot of rain being indicated in the Gulf of Mexico and in the southwest Gulf of Mexico. And it looks like tropical activity is going to be shifting there into the southwest Gulf. And actually, the Hurricane Center talks about that on their outlook, which we'll get the updated one momentarily. Heavy rains up in parts of the northern plains into the western lakes, an inch and a half to some 3 inch amounts there. 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half go all the way back through Montana and into Idaho, dry in the southwest. And no rain forecast from southern Virginia down through much of Georgia for the next 7 days. Gonna have to. I I like when I get at least pop up stuff around here, which happens because that at least keeps me from having to water my plants. But I guess I'm going to have to do that myself tomorrow. Now, let's take. I want to take a look. This is the European, and I'm going to just show you for next week. Uh, this just because you don't see this too often. This is going to run through the upper air. First off, we've got this strong short wave that's coming across the Great Lakes. This short wave is producing the severe weather we're seeing tonight. The upper ridge is back. The upper high that's building is back in West Texas. That short wave is going to move through tomorrow. So anytime you see a front coming with, on this particular upper air map, when you see the blue area showing lower than normal heights, and you notice that there's a little bit of a V shape to the trough here, right in there. So that is usually a pretty good signal that there's going to be some severe weather around, and that swings on through. Now that trough is going to pull out. And that's going to allow the ridge, which suddenly splits and redevelops over the southeast and in the Gulf states on Sunday, and then starts to push northward slowly but surely Monday and then Tuesday, and then on Wednesday, and to Wednesday night and Thursday, Joe, that is a 600 plus high
Wow.
that is centered. So this certainly does imply, when you get an upper ridge like this, first of all, there's no push coming down from Canada at all, obviously, because of the way the upper air winds are, all blowing to the southwest. You got to go to the west to see that deep trough. And in fact, I'll widen this out so we can take a look at the what's going on. Deep trough in the western part of the United States. You can see the upper low, this very wound up upper low that dives into Washington State. So as that deep trough dives, the big ridge is forced northward. And if you're underneath that big upper high, this is where we'll probably get a shot here. I would think Wednesday and possibly even on Thursday, but maybe Wednesday, depending on the wind direction at the surface, where somebody could wind up going to 100. And that ridge, by the way, holds. It starts to weaken late in the week, and then we start to see maybe some room for some sort of a weather front and relief coming next Sunday. So this is going to be a week long round of heat and also humidity, which is going to be coming up. Although Joe, with that upper high there, the dew points are going to come up, but they're not going to. I don't think they're going to fly up, way up into the 60s, into the upper 60s. But they're still going to get to a place where people are going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, no question about it. And in fact, just to show all of you what the Climate Prediction Center has been alluding to for the past few days, Joe, I'm sharing right now their latest or most recent 6 to 10 day outlook. This is for the period from June 19th. June 19th is next Wednesday through the 23rd. That's a week from Sunday. And I want to show you, which is very impressive here. You see the various shades here indicating the range of probabilities, percent chance. This dark shade that you see, and I'm going to zoom in on it here, which covers northern and northeastern Ohio, northwestern and northern sections of Pennsylvania, much of northern and central and eastern New York State, practically all of Vermont, the northern half of New Hampshire, and the western part of Maine. That dark shade is as high up on the probability scale as they can go on at the Climate Prediction Center. In other words, in this dark shade that I just outlined for you here, 90 to 100% probability of above normal temperatures. And not too far away from that, we have the 80 to 90% region, which will cover much of the lower peninsula of Michigan, northern and eastern sections of Indiana, practically all of Ohio, northern sections of West Virginia, most of Pennsylvania, except for the southeastern section, northern or northwestern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley of New York State, the northern and western half of Connecticut, on up into northernmost Rhode Island and much of northern Massachusetts, southern New Hampshire, and much of the rest of Maine, 80 to 90% probability. When you see probabilities like this, folks, as Joe mentioned, talking about, well, maybe we might be flirting with 100. The only way that you're going to flirt with 100 is if you have probabilities such as this on the crystal ball. And so it would not be surprising with this type of scenario of seeing temperatures well up into the 90s by mid and late week next week. And again, maybe in a few places touching 100 degrees. Now, you're saying to yourself, all right, but what about thunderstorms? What about some cooling conditions? Well, if that be the case, if that's what you're looking for, forget it. It'll be near normal precipitation over much of the Northeast, and then below normal across much of the same areas that are going to be blistering underneath that heat dome, so to speak, below normal, particularly for Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, southern Ohio, southern Pennsylvania, South Jersey, northern sections of North Carolina, and also much of Tennessee. So, what we're looking at for next week is not just a hot week, but a dry week. And I know that for so long, here in our neck of the woods, people have been complaining, "Oh, when is it going to stop raining? Oh, I hate it. The rain is so well, guess what? You're going to get your wish, it looks like. After tomorrow's bevy of showers and storms, enjoy it or get upset by it, whatever it tilts you in what emotion, whatever it is, tomorrow may be the last time you'll see any kind of rain or showers around here for maybe a good part of the following week with this buildup of heat, humidity, and also dry weather expected again on the 6 to 10 day outlook. Above normal precipitation for places like Minnesota and part of the Dakotas, and also in portions of the southern Rockies. We have northern sections of New Mexico and parts of Colorado in line. Heavy rain possible for South Texas and extreme southern Texas, and also for the Gulf Coast of Louisiana. And what else is new? Above normal for Florida, but it'll be below normal for a good chunk of the mid Atlantic, Northeast, and Midwest come next week.
And I was just kind of looking at the digital forecasts for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and they're starting to populate some numbers. Now, for Monday, they've got 80s along the immediate coast, but just about everybody else in at least the lower 90s and even a few middle 90s in parts of southeast Pennsylvania down into Maryland and northeast Virginia, some 94s and 95s. LaGuardia, they got it as an 89. Oh, I guess maybe they think the wind is going to be coming in off the sound, but White Plains at 92, Northeast Jersey, not whatever that spot is 93, Trenton at 95, Allentown in PA 95, Philadelphia 95, near 90 along the New Jersey shore, low 90s in the Hudson Valley. You actually have some higher amounts as you get up into north central Massachusetts. Uh, uh, Going northward up I-81 with a 95 showing up near the New Hampshire state line, 95 at Albany, Syracuse at 91, Binghamton at 89. That's for Monday. I'm sorry, that's for Tuesday. That's for Tuesday. Uh, Monday, uh, the numbers are upper 80s from New York City, north and northeast, mid and upper 80s from there, north and northeast, and then 90 or better, central New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania, down into Maryland and Virginia. Sorry about that, folks. It's one of those times of day where if I click on Monday, it's got the Tuesday map. So go figure. And then again, here's another look at Tuesday. Now, Wednesday, we start to see they actually had. Now it was just there. I just saw it, and they had it at that spot, Joe, up on I-81 in north central Mass. They had 100 degrees there. Now they got no 99 now.
Be 90, I
Uh,
90.
right. Well, it was I-81. I-91. I'm sorry, I-91. I knew that it would sound right to say I-81. I-91. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. 99 now instead of 100. I guess they updated this while I was speaking. 95 for White Plains, 94 for, hold on, 91 for LaGuardia, 87 for Islip, 96 for Trenton. This will be the day. This will be the first day, and I'm thinking that these numbers may go up a little bit by the time we get there, since it's only Thursday and we still have a long way to go to get to next Wednesday. 97 for Albany, and then next Thursday, there's your 100. So that's what it was. So 100 for Thursday in that spot in North Central Mass. 99 at Hartford, 97 for White Plains, 98 for Poughkeepsie, 97 for Philadelphia, 97 for Trenton, 97 for Allentown, and it's actually a little bit lower. Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, 96 and 95 respectively. And just to check me, 88 for me. You're going to get to 100 before I even get to 90. Watch. I just want to just check this out. Let's see. Monday, they got for me 87. Now that's in town. So that would be at the airport, which is 600 feet lower. So for me, I could be maybe only at about 82 or 3. Monday, 87. So subtract 4 or 5 degrees from that. I'm sorry, Tuesday, 87. And then Wednesday, they've got 87 again. And Thursday, they have, oh, it goes up on Thursday, Joe, it goes to 88. But by the way, you could see where the mountainous terrain is,
Right.
the green. Okay, those green splotches there. So that's where you would the yellows are showing you where the 90s are. And then as you get into the browner colors, you start to get to the middle and upper 90s. The green areas, that's all 80s. And even in some cases low 80s, depending on elevation. So being in the mountains here in the south is a big advantage. And it's a lot different than it is when you're further south in the lower elevations.
Yeah, when they discover how wonderful it is up in the mountains, you'll see in the next 5 to 10 years, the realtors are going to come up your way and start building motels.
As long as they don't come here, they can go to. There's a lot of other towns that they can go to, but as long as they don't come here. All right, so here's what it looks like on the surface. As you know, this weak low that forms off the southeast coast. You got the cold front for tomorrow moving through during the late afternoon and evening hours, and then we got a nice big high coming in for Father's Day weekend. Lovely. Meanwhile, with that big upper trough diving into the west, you've got snow in southwestern Canada and even into parts of the mountains in northern Idaho and western Montana also. So that high holds. Temperatures over the weekend will be warm, but they'll be reasonable. And then after that, we start to really warm things up as the high goes offshore and we get to a west southwest wind. You'll notice the rain from Florida in South Florida tapers off as everything starts to shift further to the west, and you start to see some heavier rains moving into places like Louisiana and Mississippi. Now there will be lower than normal pressures in the southwest Gulf of Mexico. All the models seem to be picking up on this, and they in one way or another, try to do something with it in terms of forming either a tropical depression or maybe a low-level tropical storm. The Hurricane Center, they still got 20% chance for this thing that's off the low off the southeast coast. But now on the 7-day outlook, they've added an orange 40% area, a broad area of low pressure forecast to form over the southwest Gulf late this weekend or early next week. Environmental conditions appear conducive for gradual development, and a tropical depression could form during the early or middle part of next week while it moves slowly west or west northwest. So it's something probably the coastal Texas might want to keep an eye on. Not so much whether, at this point, whether it becomes a tropical storm or not may not make a difference, but or even if it just winds up going into Mexico rather than coming into the United States. But that's a lot of moisture there. And we just saw what happened in South Florida. Not to say it's going to be a repeat performance, but it does look like the way this is set up that there could be some heavy tropical rains that may try to move into the Texas coast sometime around the middle part of next week. But we got a long ways to go before we get there, and um, eh, we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. Well, folks, you pretty much have the story. It looks like it's going to get hot and dry here after a threat of severe weather tomorrow and a lovely Father's Day weekend, Joe. It looks like Saturday gradually clearing out, increasing sunshine, lower humidity, temperatures in the low 80s, some high clouds at worst on Sunday, but Father's Day looks to be very nice with, again, comfortable conditions and temps in the 80s. And then that all goes out the window with the building ridge of high pressure over the Northeast. Next week, a heat dome and temperatures gradually climbing. And again, by the middle and latter part of next week, don't be surprised if many spots are reaching toward the mid or even upper 90s, and there may even be one or two spots that hit 100. I think that 100 you were showing in western Massachusetts, I think that may have been Springfield, Massachusetts. That
Uh, Possibly.
yeah,
Okay. Let's do some Briller Jeopardy on this Thursday night. Don't forget, just as another reminder, we are going to be on tomorrow night. at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. So we've been doing retired hurricane names, and we are up to the letter J. The letter J. Now, there's only five of these, Joe. Only five hurricanes with named with the letter J that have been retired.
And why is it that we've never had a Hurricane Joe or a Hurricane Joseph?
I don't know. You would think that that we've had. I don't know if we've had John.
Have we ever
Um,
had Jose?
yes, Jose. We've had a few times.
Yeah.
But no, we haven't had Joe or Joseph or Joey. Okay. I hope to God they never do that. All right. So we've got on the chat board, they're just rolling in. I think they probably get all five here. Jason Fox knocks two of them out, Joe. Hurricane Janet in 1955, which, by the way, is the only hurricane where the only time that a Hurricane Hunter plane was lost when flying into a hurricane was in Hurricane Janet in the Caribbean, 1955. It was a Category 4 at the time. And Juan, Hurricane Juan in 2003.
Right. And that one did a number on Nova Scotia. And in fact, right after they got hit in Nova Scotia, they had a big snowstorm the following winter, and they were making reference to it as White Juan. Uh,
Yes,
so,
as opposed to white wine.
yes.
Yes. Crescentapedia gets Joaquin. Joaquin in 2015. And so did Steve Lapointe. Nice to see you on board, Steve. I haven't seen you in a while. So we've got Janet, we've got Juan, and we've got Joaquin. So there's two left.
Wasn't there one that crossed over the into the Pacific, Joan?
That is correct, Joe. In 1988, Hurricane Joan. And Dennis Cassia just came up with that one too. So Joan, and now that leaves us with one. And it was a Florida storm, by the way. Oh, Rich Rothmansky got it. Let's see if somebody else gets it without cheating. Um, let's see. No. Christinapedia, you're kind of in the you're playing around with the name and you're close. And Anthony Orr and Vincent Croce all coming up with Hurricane Gene in 2004. I think that was the year in 2004 where Florida got like three hurricanes in 6 weeks or something. Three major hurricanes, something like that.
I think so.
I think it was.
It was a busy year for Florida.
I long for the days where I could just have all this memory at the top of my head, but you know what? That is no longer the case. All right. On that note, we will remind everybody that the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system that you can install so easily and run on your mobile device. And you would be part of the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the description of this podcast. Use the coupon code Spring 2024, and if you do, you will get.
10% off.
And we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. to cover the severe thunderstorms as they move through the Northeast, and then give you a roundup on the weekend, and we'll figure out what the heat wave's going to do and see if anything else is going on, and maybe the rain will taper off and start to taper off in South Florida. So we'll see you tomorrow night.
Oh,
Nighty night. Oh, you had something to say?
no, I see Christinapedia says Joe R needs a new line, LOL. I don't understand what that means.
Um,
Oh, yeah, the 10% off. I'm
10% off.
happy
Yeah.
saying 10%, I'm happy saying 10% off, Christinapedia.
And on that note, we're going. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye.